Harald Godwinson, was a leading Saxon lord and the brother of Edward's wife. Harald was chosen by the Witan, the king's council, to succeed Edward the Confessor. He said it was Edward's dying wish that he should have the crown. There were no witnesses. The day after Edward died, Harald became King Harald II of England. Harald did not have a direct blood linked with king. He was not of royal birth. William, Duke of Normandy, was a distant cousin of Edward the Confessor. He claimed that both Edward and Harald had promised him the throne. When Edward was a boy in 1016, he fled to Normandy for safety until he became King of England in 1042. Edward invited William of Normandy to his court in 1051 and supposedly promised to make him heir. After a shipwreck in 1064, Harald was handed over to William of Normandy. Harald swore an oath that he would help William become the next King of England when Edward died. Oaths were important guarantees that were considered binding in the Middle Ages, therefore making Harald's claim to the throne illegal. Harald Hardrada was King of Norway and a direct descendant of the kings of England. He was related to King Canute, the King of England from 1016 to 1032. Norwegian kings ruled England up until 1042 when Edward the Confessor snatched back the throne from them. The Battle of Hastings was fought on October 14, 1066. Before the battle, William's men had done considerable damage to the area around Hastings. His soldiers wore chainmail armour which gave them much protection. His cavalry were the elite of his army and they rode specially bred horses which could carry the soldier's weight and still be fast. Harald's army was made up of a mixture of professional and peasant soldiers who had been collected on the march south from Stamford Bridge to Sussex. Soldiers were poorly paid and anything that they took in battle they could keep it part of their payment. This was called spoils of war. Fighting William, who was an invader, was a good opportunity for some peasants to increase their wealth and was the moral thing to do. William had landed at Pevensey Bay in September. William built a motte and bailey castle on Pevensey Bay. Then he moved east and inland, a few miles from Hastings. It is not known why William assembled his men at the bottom of a Senlac Hill and why he allowed Harald to set up his army on top of the hill. Perhaps William was too confident about defeating an army who had fought an exhausting and bloody battle and just marched over 250 miles from Stamford Bridge, Yorkshire. Most of the information comes from the Norman Bayeaux Tapestry, produced around 1077 by nuns for Bishop Otto, William's half-brother. The battle lasted all day. In the first part of the battle, the Normans suffered heavy losses. The Normans won the battle when the shield wall that protected the Saxons had broken down. The shield wall was manned by inexperienced Saxon peasant soldiers. According to the Bayeux Tapestry, Harald was killed by an arrow in the eye. William to London and was crowned King William I at Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day 1066.